Good morning, everyone. I am John Robert Navales. Today, we are going to explore the fascinating world of ethics and, in particular, focus on a unique and Asian approach called the virtue ethics. What is virtue ethics? The goal of life is well being or happiness, and the means to attain it is by acquiring a virtuous character. Origins of virtue ethics. The philosophy of virtue ethics is said to have originated in ancient Greece. However, certain ties may be traced back to ancient China. Virtue or arete denotes excellence in Greek, virtue of happiness for Greeks, and all subsequent virtue theories. The goal of action is the ultimate human good, happiness or eudaimonia. Happiness is seen as the pinnacle of what it is to be human, symbolizing a state of well being and thriving, particularly in the soul or mind. Even though happiness may appear to be a subjective experience, the idea of human flourishing argues that it has an objective component, similar to the objective character of health. Virtue is the attribute that distinguishes a person as good or outstanding, and it is the road to achieving this level of happiness. Socrates or Plato's theory of virtue. Virtue is seen as a sort of knowledge that is closely related to wisdom or Sophia. Wisdom, like math knowledge, is seen as vital and complete for virtue. This information, whether about virtue or mathematics, is assumed to be derived by a process known as recollection, which involves self reflection, or so being virtuous is like having wise knowledge, and you get it by reflecting on what you already know.
A problem of knowledge. In terms of virtue, you can do the right thing without knowing why it's the right thing. If you just believe that a certain action is good, you might act virtuously, but this belief can be shaky and temporary. That's why it's important to not only have the right belief but also knowledge, which means you have a good reason to believe it's true. So, to truly act virtuously, it's better to have knowledge rather than just a fleeting belief. Practical wisdom or prudence. Aristotle makes a distinction between two types of wisdom, one for ethical action and one for sciences. The wisdom necessary for action is practical wisdom, or good moral judgment. Aquinas called this prudence or prudentia. When it comes to making good decisions in various situations, it's like having a skill called good judgment. To get better at this skill, you need experience because you learn how to make right decision in different types of situation. Good judgment helps you make the right decision in the right circumstances. And at the right time, it's like knowing what to do when and where. Virtue and character. To be virtuous is to have virtuous character. Dispositions or character qualities should be interpreted freely so that a moral person acts. For instance, a person who is honest will always tell the truth, obey the law, and not misrepresent who they are. The honest person does this out of preference for being honest, not out of a desire to avoid negative consequences. Because of this, it is dangerous to judge someone's character just on the basis of one or a few deeds. Acquiring virtue is like learning to ride a bicycle. Starting point. Just as you start with training wheels or wobbling on a bicycle, you begin your moral and intellectual journey with varying levels of virtue. To ride a bike smoothly, you need practice and balance. Acquiring virtues requires consistent effort and a balance between moral and intellectual growth. Falling and getting up just as you might fall your bike while learning. Making mistake is part of acquiring virtue. Mistakes offer opportunity to learn and improve. Over time, you get better at riding, and acquiring virtues follows a similar path of gradual mastery. Lifelong journey. Like riding with your unique flair, your virtues reflect your character and values. Riding a bicycle or acquiring virtues is a lifelong journey requiring dedication and continual self-improvement. Character and the will. For Aquinas, even if a person has the right characteristic and is inclined by nature to do the right thing, that person still has a choice either to follow commands of reason or not. The individual human will is right when it conforms to divine will. Divine will is the ultimate lawgiver. God ordained right and wrong, good and bad, when God created the world. So, failure to conform to God's will is to violate the natural law.
Intellectual and moral values. Aristotle and Aquinas make a distinction between moral and intellectual virtues. Intellectual virtues can be taught formally. They require knowledge of causes and ends, the why and how, as well as a grasp of both. Example: intellectual virtue. Curiosity is the desire to seek knowledge, explore new ideas, and ask questions. It drives a person to learn and discover more about the world. Scenario: a student who eagerly raises their hand in class to ask questions about a topic they find interesting and wants to understand it better is demonstrating the intellectual virtue of curiosity. Moral values must be learned and developed by experience. They have to do with developing moral habits and having the right emotional control. Example: moral virtue. Honesty is the quality of being truthful and sincere in one's actions and interactions with others. It involves speaking the truth, keeping promises, and being straightforward.
This is your favorite vase, right?
Yes, one of a kind. Nothing else like it. Unique, super unique.
Yeah.
And it will crush my soul if it ever broke.
Okay.
Wait. What the hell's wrong with you? Why would you break that freaking vase?
I didn't break the vase. Gravity made the vase break. Gravity made that vase hit the ground.
When a child accidentally breaks a vase and they admit their mistake and tell their parents the truth, they are demonstrating the moral virtue of honesty. Habit. How to acquire virtue. Aristotle held the view that we learn by doing when it comes to the moral virtues. Virtue demands commitment and effort. There is a necessary cognitive component as well, because virtue demands moral judgment or reason. The goal of human existence and eudaimonia. Eudaimonia, which is a state of flourishing and happiness. It is described as a lifelong pursuit that can be achieved through rational thinking and contemplation, theoretical wisdom, as well as practical wisdom and involvement in politics. Eudaimonia is all about being as happy as you can be. It suggests that the happiest state is when you're really good at what you do and your actions are in line with what you're naturally suited for. In other words, the best kind of happiness comes from doing things you're great at and that match your talents. It believes that true human happiness happens when you're excellent at something and your actions are guided by a strong sense of goodness or virtue. The doctrine of the mean. Proper position between two extremes: vice of excess and vice of deficiency. When it comes to finding the right balance in life, it's not like finding the middle number in a math problem, arithmetic median. It's not the same for everyone. It can even change for the same person in different situations. So, A wise person doesn't aim for too much or too little of something, but they try to find the middle of the mean. That's just right for them in a given situation. In other words, they avoid extremes and look for the right balance. They find true reason, education, contemplation, reflection. To be a good person, you need to use your brain, reason. This means you should learn things, think deeply, and reflect on your actions. Balance with other virtues and applied using phronesis. Courage without good judgment is blind. Courage without perseverance is short-lived. Courage without a clear sense of your own abilities is foolhardy. Being a good person isn't just about having one good quality. You need to balance different good qualities like courage with other good qualities. And you need to use practical wisdom, phronesis, to know when and how to use these qualities. For example, if you have courage but don't use good judgment, it's not helpful. You need to be wise about when and how to be courageous. So, a truly virtuous person is someone who has practical wisdom, which means they know when and how to use these good qualities in the right way. They don't just have one virtue. They have a balanced mix of virtues.
To sum it all up, here's an example of virtue ethics compared to other ethical theories. Ethicists Mark White and Robert Arp used the scene in the movie The Dark Knight where Batman has the chance to murder the Joker to highlight the difference between three main moral theories. White and Arp argue that utilitarians would support executing the Joker. Batman could rescue countless lives by killing this one life. On the other hand, deontologists would disagree with killing the Joker for the simple reason that it's wrong to kill. However, a proponent of virtue ethics would emphasize the character of the person who kills the Joker. Does Batman intend to become the sort of person who kills his foes? No. In fact, he doesn't. Are the virtues the same for everyone? People are incredibly diverse. However, we share the same fundamental issues and needs. For there always danger. Everyone requires bravery. We will need to be generous because other individuals are less wealthy. We need family and friends because everyone needs support. Strengths of virtue ethics. The value of the individual, motive, heart, and conscience, as well as the connection to the community. Understanding the morality is a long-term process rather than a series of moments, fosters a tolerance of ambiguity and the diversity of circumstances. This approach emphasizes moral development within various life settings and encourages individuals to cultivate virtuous character traits that guide their ethical decision-making over time. Weakness of virtue ethics. Virtue ethics values strong communities and emphasize the importance of long-term moral development through the cultivation of virtuous character traits. While it doesn't provide easy answer to all moral dilemmas and requires patience, it encourages individuals to consider the specific circumstances in a manner that might resemble situational ethics. However, there is a risk rigidly following predefined virtues, turning it into a form of bad duty-based ethics, making it somewhat akin to situational ethics in that regard. Thank you for joining us on an enlightening journey through virtue ethics. As you navigate life, moral complexities, may the wisdom virtues guide you towards a more virtuous and fulfilling life.